All right, it's rivalry week. The game, undefeated Ohio State versus undefeated Michigan in Columbus for essentially a playoff spot. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Let's call a spade a spade. This is, in every sense of the word, a playoff game for both programs. Winner goes to the Big Ten title game. We'll play an unranked conference opponent, likely make the college football playoff. So we've talked a lot about this game this week, but let's take a look at the trenches. Because in a rivalry game, so much of what you do is in attitude and you wanting to assert your will on your rival. Like, that's a big deal when it comes to these kinds of games. We'll talk about more of that at the end of this segment. But I want to break it down in terms of importance and what it would equate to for Michigan in the trenches and then for Ohio State in the trenches. Okay? Starting with Michigan. For Michigan, this is who they are. Like, outside of just the whole rivalry thing, this is their persona. This is their identity. They're 61% of the time they are running the football. They do it really effectively on the year, around 240 yards on the ground per a game. They are very content to play bully ball. Now, a big part of that bully ball for them in this game will be the health of Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Jim Harbaugh has not given an update on them as of yet, so if the worst case scenario happens and you don't have them available in this game, you turn to Stokes. Now, the good news for Michigan fans, of course it matters who's running the football for you, but the good news would be that you have some enormous human beings on that offensive line that have been phenomenal all year long. No matter who's carrying the ball, Michigan's averaging 5.5 yards a carry on the year. Okay, that's really good. That's top 10 in the country. Going back to what that would mean for them, it would take the pressure off of J.J. McCarthy if you're able to play that bully ball kind of style of game. Because J.J. McCarthy, as talented as he is, as much potential as he has, this will be his first start in the biggest game of his career to this point. This is a very, very big spot for J.J. McCarthy. You know the luxury for a freshman quarterback in his first start against Ohio State to be able to turn around and hand the ball to Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, Stokes, and be able to pick up 5 yards and live in 2nd and 5, live in 3rd and 2. The plays that you're calling in those down and distances is so much more flexible than if you're living in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, like we kind of saw happen a couple of times against Illinois. The gameplay will be much easier, and you will ask much less of J.J. McCarthy if you're able to run the football effectively if you're Michigan. Now, in addition to that, yes, it takes some pressure off, but also, guess what it does? Brings those safeties down. Those linebackers start creeping up. Maybe those corners start falling asleep at the wheel, and it gives you the opportunity to take some shots. So, the throws become a lot easier downfield is what I'm trying to say to you. With no safety back there, if they're running up and playing run support on play action, you got some wide open space for your receivers to have an opportunity to go win and a lot of green grass to throw that ball deep to. Okay? Because I believe in this game, there will be a point and a time where Michigan has to take the shot. All right? Now, Michigan, obviously, if that isn't the reality, if they're able to just run the football, I promise you they're fine with doing that. But my feel on this is Ohio State's defensive line is strong enough to at least give you a couple of scenarios where you have to throw the football deep because of the resources they're committing to the run game. Quick note, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, we would love to have you here. We are going to be at the game. I am just overwhelmingly juiced up for that. So fired up to meet a lot of you there and be a part of an experience like that, an environment like that. But subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also follow me on the social channels at JD Piquel on Twitter and Instagram to stay up with every single thing that we're doing here and also keep up with our travels as we head to this game. So for Ohio State in the trenches, it's a little bit different. They're a 54% run team, so they actually run the ball more than they throw the ball. But for them, I think the key for them is balance. Like, yes, they want to run the football. That's important. But for them, it's a lot about balance and being able to have a little more of a balanced picture defensively, if that makes sense. Because when you're just sitting back there and throwing the football and throwing the football and throwing the football, well, guess what? Even if you don't have the guys in the secondary, you eventually wisen up and get to have at least a half-step advantage on knowing what's coming, right? Like, these are all defensive coordinators at the FBS level. I mean, Jesse Minter, if they don't challenge running the football, they're not going to be able to throw the football, right? So balance is crucial. Now, in addition to that, the new element that Ohio State has made an effort to implement is toughness. Because what did we see last year from Ohio State? What was the narrative around the Buckeyes? Hey, really talented team, a lot of guys in that program with a bunch of stars next to their name coming out of high school, like super talented team. But guess what? If you punch them in the mouth, they crumble. And we saw that last year in this game. I'll get more on that in a second. But Ohio State took that narrative, processed it, downloaded it, and I promise you, it was a point of emphasis all offseason long during strength conditioning, during the winter workouts, which are just brutal, by the way. Probably the worst part of the college football calendar year if you're a college football player. They made that a point to get tougher. And it has shown with what they do offensively. They're averaging around 5.5 yards a carry, too. They're running the ball really effectively as well. Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson, you would hope they're somewhat healthy for this game if you're an Ohio State fan. But the good news is Dallin Hayden had a really full plate last week against Maryland, and he ate. Okay, so I think you feel pretty okay if Dallin Hayden is your guy in this game. Now, obviously, like I said, you want to have Mayan Williams, you want to have Travion Henderson, but if it is young Dallin Hayden in the game for you, you're not overly concerned. So that's a big deal. But like I said, toughness and the element they've added to their persona this season, that's huge, and that's going to be very much needed in this game. And the reason why it's been crucial for them to add that up to this point in the year, it's changed the kind of games that Ohio State is capable of winning. We've seen it on multiple times this year. Northwestern, bad weather, can hardly throw the football. C.J. Stroud has less than 100 yards passing that day. Don't matter. Hand it to Mayan Williams. Let him eat. Run the ball and win the ball game on the ground. Notre Dame, same thing. Jackson Smith-Njigba goes out early. It felt like the Ohio State offense loses a little bit of rhythm. Got to recalibrate. That's fine. Hand the ball to Mayan Williams. Let Travion Henderson cook. Let them get downhill. To be able to win games tough, to win games quote-unquote ugly, which I hate even saying that there's such thing as an ugly win, but you get what I'm saying. Being able to win the football game on the ground, in the trenches, is a new look for Ohio State and something they will need in this game. Now, going back to what I said at the beginning of this whole segment, this whole video, Ohio State a season ago got dominated in the trenches. And that's no disrespect to the Buckeye program. I think a lot of them would tell you the same. 300 yards, more or less, is what they gave up on the ground. Gave up 4 sacks. Now, they've done a lot to correct that, but that's who Michigan is. And so I think to give you an overall view of what I think about this game, a Michigan win would require some dominance in the trenches. Like I think the formula you saw a year ago, where they show up, boss up, and push Ohio State around, I think that would be what they end up doing if they are to win this game. Now, for Ohio State, I think it's very much important that they're able to match the physicality in the trenches, but I don't know that it's going to be a game where they just totally push Michigan back. I think the big thing for Ohio State is matching the physical tone that Michigan is bringing. Again, if they can just match it, if they can just sort of be a barrier up against it and have it be like 2 Rams, just button heads for 4 quarters, eventually you're going to get some things to go your way in the pass game. Okay? As a whole, I think the trenches decide this game. The way this thing swings, I think that's going to be the ultimate answer to who wins this football game versus Michigan and Ohio State. But I tell you what, I cannot wait to be there, cannot wait to see all of you there, and cannot wait to experience what I anticipate being one of the best rivalries in all of college sports, and all of sports in general. All right, I'll leave it at that. This has been The Hard Count. Nick Brake does the real heavy lifting. You can drive this whole operation by subscribing to the channel. This is the People Show. For the people, by the people. Every single day, it's college football content coming your way, and we are extremely grateful and proud to make that happen for you. We're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.